Welcome back to PRN Test Drive. I'm James, and this is the 2025 Mazda CX-90 PHEV. We have featured the CX-90 on the channel before, and I was able to take a look at the version that had the inline 6 and the mild hybrid system on board. Now that's the one you go with if you want a Mazda CX-90 that's a little bit faster. He also had a better looking exterior and a way better looking interior color. And while I might not have either one of those things, I do have the most efficient Mazda CX-90 that money can buy. Because with my plug-in hybrid electric, I can actually go a little bit further on a full charge, and that's always a great thing. So I think it'll be a little bit cheaper when it comes to the pumps. And this is also the one that I would look at if I just wanted a mall crawler or a vehicle that I could buy to own for a very long time, because it has a ton of space and it still looks relatively sporty. Now, I've also gotten to test the CX-90 in extremely cold winter weather. It's been about minus 25 with the wind chill, so it's been really cold here in Quebec. And for the most part, the battery's held up well, the car stays warm, really no issues other than something that concerns me when I'm driving, specifically when we switch over from the gas to electric or electric to gas when really giving it some throttle. Now I'm gonna tell you all about that and more in case you are gonna spend your money on one of these 2025 Mazda CX-90s. But I'm gonna do it from the interior because it's about minus 21 right now and my frostbite is starting to set in. So now that I'm nice and warm inside the Mazda CX-90, let me tell you about what is under the hood. I have the eSkyActiv PHEV 2.5 liter engine, with of course the electric motors. Those combined are going to give me 323 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque. Now, if you're interested in the numbers for just the EV side, it's 173 horsepower, 199 pound-feet of torque. So it's adding quite a bit of boost to our gasoline engine. So that's pretty nice. Now, battery capacity, we have a 17.8 kilowatt hour battery on board, 42 kilometers of actual full EV range, although in the minus 20, I haven't seen really over 20. It's extremely cold out here, and I think that has a lot to do with it. But I've been charging it fully, and yeah, I see right now I'm about half, and I see 6 kilometers. So, you know, I think I am losing half of my range due to the cold weather. Now for charging, if you've got a level 1, it's going to take you 6 hours and 40 minutes from about 10 to 80%. If you have a level 2, so if you have a home charger, you're going to be able to charge this thing fully from 10 to 80% in around an hour and a half. Now I have the top trim of the Mazda CX-90. I don't have, you can option a white interior here. I do not have it. I've got the straight black. If I had to choose between a CX-50 and a CX-90, just based off style and size and stuff like that, I'm gonna go CX-90. I just think this is the next step up, and if you have a little bit more in your budget, this is the way to go because it just looks really good on the exterior. Of course, I would not get it in gray. I think there's enough gray cars on the road. I love that color that Nile had. They actually make a really good red for this version as well, so I'd also probably look at that, and I definitely option, the different color interior. But speaking of interior, since I'm already sitting inside of it, let me tell you what it's all about, but let's switch the angle. All right, so sitting in the back seat of the Mazda CX-90, and I'm sitting behind my driver profile because my other side has my baby seat in here. So let's actually start with talking about that. So it's really easy to mount a child seat in here. I've kind of got the one that's adjustable, so this will last us for a couple of years here. Currently, she's 1 year old, and it's very easy to get in. Really no problem. I actually like the amount of space that I had because, you really have to make sure that these car seats are tight. They cannot go anywhere. And so using the tie down points on the seat, very easy to find. It has like these little pop-off things that to get to the tie down points. I would have preferred something that I could lift because I feel like those pop-up things, I would just lose them if I were to own them full time if I didn't keep them in the vehicle. So that's just one thing. But other than that, very easy. My child seems to enjoy it. I like how the seats are they're high enough where she can actually see outside the window. And that's something that I think is really important to babies, or at least my daughter anyways. So overall, if you have a family, if you're a new family and you want to put your car seat in here, you're going to have absolutely no issues doing that. Now, let's say if you're just a normal passenger, also no problem, got a ton of leg room. My seat is, of course, can go back and forth. I do have the third row behind me. It's a little cramped back there. So in order to get back there, I'd really have to move my seat forwards and actually use it. But the fact that you have it is still really good. There is enough room for smaller children or smaller items. You can also just fold down that third row and have a ton of trunk space. The only thing is though, there's this privacy screen that goes right across basically where the third row goes. So every time I want to lift up that third row, I have to take out that privacy screen first, which is just interesting. This doesn't seem like you can have one and the other. You can't have the privacy screen and the third row up, so you really have to choose. But since I don't have a need for my third row, I always keep it down and I use the enormous trunk space. Now I also have some nice shades over here that come up, very nice. You can block out the people that can't afford a top trim of the CX-90. I've also got heated seats back here. I can see there's a missing button. It seems like for ventilation, but I don't have it. But I also have my own climate control back here. So this is a climate control situation. Very cool. You can control it from up front, of course. I've got my own vents and 2 USB-C ports, so that's really, really nice. So say my wife is back here with my baby or something, she can actually control stuff from here and not have to ask me to do it up front. It's just that those little things that make, you know, having a family vehicle or something like that very, very important, and I'm a fan of this one. So that's it for the back seat. Very nice place to spend time, but let's hop to a place that's even better to spend time. Let's check out the driver's seat. All right, so sitting in the business end now, the driver's seat for the Mazda CX-90. What a good place to spend time. I know that I told you in the CX-50 that I couldn't get comfortable, and I was honestly worried that that would transcend into all the other Mazda SUVs that I was gonna drive. But the good news is it absolutely has not. This CX-90 seat is very, very comfortable. There isn't much in the way of bolstering or anything like that, so personally, I like a little bit more bolstering on the sides, especially in like a top trim of a vehicle, but it's absolutely not necessary. This one is perfect, very comfortable. I don't have that weird kind of like thigh bulge that I had in the CX-50, so very good news there. I do like the interior design just overall, like the different trims and materials that we have is nice. I just would have taken like a different color, and I wish Mazda showed me a different color, because the one that Niall had, that beige interior, was just incredible looking. I loved it. But let's look at what you actually get here. So a bunch of physical buttons on our steering wheel, which I like. Right-hand side is going to be for your cruise control. Left-hand side is going to be for your infotainment, volume, and things like that. All the way to the left, though, we do have 2 memory seat settings. We have the automatic tailgate. We also have the traction control off, parking sensing buttons, and also the sense buttons off, so the driver attention stuff. I also have a Bose sound speaker. Very, very decent. I like when companies or manufacturers go with Bose. They're one of my favorites to listen to. And then we get into our digital gauge cluster. You heard me right. I said digital gauge cluster because that's one of my complaints in almost all of the lower end, or I guess you could call them lower end Mazda, is that it's always this mix between digital and analog. And at this point in 2025, it was getting a little bit dated, but this is exactly what I was hoping to see for Mazda. We have a fully digital gauge cluster with a little piece of customization. And honestly, I'll take it because it's still simple and it's still very nice looking. It's just digital. It just kind of matches the times. Now, when I switch my drive modes, that's where, like, you know, things are going to get interesting with the digital gauge cluster. Things will change for off-road. I got a full EV mode. I also have a sport mode, and I also have the normal mode. But the EV mode, sometimes it doesn't let me in it because either the battery's too low or I think it's just simply too cold. There's been a few times where it just was like, absolutely not, you're not going in it. And then you have a little gauge on the right that you can kind of customize what's in the center, tire pressure, fuel economy, you know, you name it, you can pretty much have it there. But that's about the biggest customization. But honestly, that's a welcome change. Then we move on to our digital infotainment display. This one is quite big. I can sort of reach it from my driver profile here, but I'm still going to use the knob. Honestly, I don't hate the knob. I think it's very easy to use while you're driving around. This is not a normal touchscreen unless you put your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto on, then it becomes a touchscreen, but the basic menu is not touchscreen. But honestly, even when the touchscreen is enabled on this thing, I'm still using that knob. I also have all physical buttons for my HVAC control. So people who just want a plug and play experience, a sit and drive experience, this is very much for you because there's not a lot going on in your infotainment. Everything's very laid out. Nothing is really buried in settings. Everything's just right there. You just hop in. All your buttons are here. You got heated, ventilated seats. This is the GT trim. So, of course, I've got stuff like that as well as something like a 360-degree camera, which is very welcome here. And then, like I said, I have the button where I can press and control the rear climate should I need to. I also have the button right here that will kick on the engine and start to charge the electric battery should you want to do it that way. And if you don't want to plug it in or you can't and you just want that electric range charged up, you can absolutely do that with your engine with the click of a button. Very nice. I like the gear selector on this thing. It's an interesting one where you kind of got to move it to the side, back and forth. Very nice though, very simple to use, very ergonomic as well, kind of flows. If you just want to hold something while you're driving, that's there too. I also really like the trim here on the center console because it's not piano black. So this is not going to get scratched up that easy. You're not going to see fingerprint marks. No matter how much you touch it, this material right here is very, very nice to see. I've also got a little bit of storage with 2 USB-C ports. It's not a deep storage, but it's definitely enough for a vehicle of this size. So overall, it's been a great interior to spend time with. No huge complaints there. So let's get on to a little bit of complaints, but the only real issues I've found is actually when the car is moving. So let's take this thing out on the road. All right, so out on the road now with the Mazda CX-90 PHEV, and it's been a pretty decent week driving this thing. I mean, my biggest complaints are basically 2 things. One, the ride quality isn't the best. It does oftentimes feel like a bouncy castle, especially when I'm really going over bad roads. It's winter here in Quebec, so the roads are way worse than normal. But yeah, it just feels like too firm at times and just too bouncy at other times. It is really something that you really do have to live with kind of and try to manage. It's not like super terrible where it's like, oh my God, that is absolutely not a deal breaker. Like if I was to own this car, look, it would be something that I would get used to relatively quick. It's just when you first hop in, you're really going to notice it quite a bit. That's why I always recommend people, take your test drive, see how the seat fits for you. Don't always just take my word. Go into it with, well, he didn't like the ride quality. Let's see if I do. That's always the thing I recommend. Also, second thing, the biggest thing is when it switches over, sometimes in extreme cold, when I'm switching over from gas to electric, the engine just, feels like it just takes forever to come on. There is such a delay in giving me the engine power. Like it just felt like there was one point where I got on the highway and it felt like the engine just simply wasn't able to get on. It just wouldn't kick on. And I started to go slower. I had my foot the same on the accelerator, but I started to lose speed. And then the engine finally kicked on. And it's kind of done the same thing to me, kind of cold start in the morning, minus 25. You turn it on, it goes, like it really doesn't seem like the engine doesn't seem like it's very happy to be alive and running in the winter. And I don't blame it. I don't enjoy it either, especially in the winter. I do not want to be running at all in the winter, but let's see if it'll do it. So right now I'm in EV mode. The car is warm though, so let's just see. Let me push it a little bit, normal mode. Yeah, see, I didn't get it. But when you do push past the click point, no matter what mode you're in, you get a little electric boost. There's like a little blue thing that said I had a boost. But let me throw it actually into sport mode and see what's going to go on. So I feel that I'm now in EV mode because I'm coasting, but now it's finally switched me to sport mode. There's a big delay when that happens too, which is interesting. So let's actually give it more beams here. Oh yeah, it's really good pickup regardless of it. Yeah, that's really nice actually. It's not, I don't really enjoy when the engine is super loud and I'm not really going anywhere. Not the best sounding thing in the world, but look, if you need that burst of speed, you need to get up to speed quickly, you're gonna have absolutely no problem doing it. It's just in extreme cold, I would just watch out for that super delay of the switchover because it was really scary. It happened a few times in a row and so far it hasn't happened. Currently we're sitting at -8 though. I was sitting seriously at about -20, and that's not including wind and all that stuff. So maybe in extreme conditions, your engine is going to have a little bit of trouble to kick on. But again, it could be something, the fact that this is just a test vehicle, but that is something that seriously concerns me. Just of long-term ownership, I don't want to, constantly be losing power getting on the highway or, feeling like I'm losing power because the engine takes forever to kick itself on in the extreme cold. Parts of me feels like maybe these engines weren't designed to run in cold weather. Look, I owned a 2018 Hyundai Elantra, and I can 100% tell you that engine was not designed for Canadian winter whatsoever. It was horrible in the winter. It didn't like to run. I don't get that much of an impression from Mazda. It's just when it starts, it just doesn't like to warm up very well. Once you get it going, once you get some driving into it, then it's okay. And then if I were to start it up, if I were to hop into the store and then come back out and start it up again, I would have no problem. It's just that initial start and that initial kind of switching over from electric to gas power that it really doesn't seem to enjoy. Now, what is cool though is right now I only have 1 kilometer of driving because I basically used all the battery to rip it. But I could, if I had more than 1 kilometer of EV range, I could throw it into EV mode and I could absolutely rip it. Let's maybe see if I can get my car to charge the thing, and maybe towards the end we'll do a little EV rip. But what's cool is, you can pretty much floor it on EV range. You're not going to go very fast. Like I said, it's not a very big battery. It's not too powerful, but still, the fact that you can drive on fully electric and just kind of get up to speed gradually is very, very nice, and it's going to save you quite a bit of money at the pump, I think. Right now, I'm doing 9.6 liters per 100 kilometers. I've done about 400 kilometers city highway. Your number will probably be much, much lower than mine because I have to idle a lot, you know. I'm just doing random things. I'm driving, I'm testing things, I'm pushing it, I'm not pushing it, I'm going too slow, I'm going too fast. You know, I'm doing a lot of things that definitely don't suit fuel economy, so I think that you could probably get it way lower. I'm sure owners of the CX-90 plug-in hybrid or even the mild hybrid are gonna see way better numbers than I am. 9.6 though, not terrible, but again, if you actually own this vehicle long-term, like if I owned it and I drove it like a normal everyday car, I think I would see that number drop way, way lower. So overall handling has been pretty nice. I like how it stiffens up in sport mode. Throttle response is very good in sport mode. Braking response is good as well. Driving this thing in the winter, it's a very predictable vehicle. It's got the all-wheel drive, of course. You're gonna have to do something pretty dumb to get yourself stuck, especially if you got yourself a good pair of winter tires. I've driven on some ice this week, really haven't slid that much. Traction control has been perfectly managing me and monitoring me really well. So really no problems there. Visibility is also very nice. I've got nice side view mirrors. This isn't a very big car, so it's really not a big issue to kind of see around. And if you ever have trouble parking, you do have that 360-degree camera at your disposal. It shows you all the angles and it is really decent quality, actually. So yeah, overall, living with the Mazda CX-90 has been an absolute breeze, other than my slight concern that in extreme cold weather or even colder weather like we sometimes get here in Quebec, that the car is going to struggle a little bit more than I would be comfortable with. That I would have to have it way longer and figure it out. I'd have to take it for a whole winter to really, really see if that would be a deal breaker or not. But it happened to me, and what's the point of me reviewing stuff if I can't tell you stuff like that when I notice little things going on like that? But like I said, once you have enough heat into the vehicle and stuff like that, really that issue kind of goes away. And like I said in the beginning, it's a great family car to buy and to own for a very long time. We have a ton of space. We got the third row, plenty of trunk space, all the features you can need, heated, ventilated seats. I mean, you name it, we pretty much have it here in this Mazda CX-90, and it actually doesn't look too bad. And they've upgraded their digital gauge cluster, so that looks nicer too. But as always, I want to hear from you. I want to know what you think. Previous owners, current owners, people that are potentially looking at buying this. Let me know what you think about the whole thing. Would you spec it like this? Would you change the interior? Do you like the color? Or are you just gonna go straight up for the sporty version of the inline six? Personally, I feel like this, you know, 325 or 329 horsepower, something like that, I feel like it's enough, more than enough, that anybody needs out of an SUV, especially a family mall crawler SUV such as this one. I really don't feel like you need any more than that. I think it's great the way it is. With that being said, that's going to about do it for my thoughts on the Mazda CX-90. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you in the next week. See you in the next car. Take care.